signal? Oh yeah, we're good to go. So I have the pleasure of greeting you all before lunch, so I can get lots of this, and appreciate the intro there. So again, my name is Barrett Hopper. I work for MKS Instruments. I'm the Director of Operations for our MSD division for Americas. So my region is the largest geographic it can be. I go from Argentina all the way up through to Canada. So it's a pretty wide swath of land there. That's kind of what I do. But I also get to run a local facility also, along with that. So I also run our Rock Hill, South Carolina plant. So I'm the plant manager there, and I get to direct the operation. So the best plant manager I have in the whole network works in Rock Hill. He's my favorite. This is my favorite. But before I go, I want to get you all to do something for me. So please give yourselves a hand for making it today too. So it's also known that when you clap your hands, you release endorphins to give your brain a little boost. So you can also call me a drug dealer. So, all right, that's a little free for you. But what I'm going to do, and this is kind of a good segue, talk about ownership, how you get there, and resistance, right? Because we're talking about the connected worker. So I'm going to walk you through a real case study that I have as some general slides, but I'm not going to read those slides. I'm really talking through a journey, a real journey, and kind of let you know what it really feels like, what it felt like, and what we have to do to really, really get there from that. So hopefully I'll share some nuggets along the way as we go through this process. So first, and I mentioned this yesterday in one of the sessions, I answered a question about you have to start with the problem, right? So I'll walk you through this matrix here so it can help you all, because this is what I use to identify whether you have a problem or not. Okay, pretty simple. So if you start with the flow chart of solving a problem, you say, does it work? Yes or no? If it works, then do you want to mess with it? And if you don't mess with it, no problem. If you do mess with it, you're an idiot for doing that. Don't mess with it. So if you do, then you ask yourself, does anybody know about it? If it's no, no problem. If they do, you're still an idiot. So then you go through this scenario for yourself. You say, can you blame somebody else for it? If you can, no problem. Not your problem, right? Somebody else's problem. And all in jest, if there's no problem, there'll be no connection, and there'll be no ownership. And so we talk a lot about with them, what's in it for me. You can throw that out the window, because you have to meet people where they are. Because when you bring that with them, you're trying to bring your perspective to the person. And that's going to fall short every time, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So you need to ask where they are, what do they want to get out of this stuff, what are their expectations for this. So we did an MES implementation, and this across a lot of platforms, and I'm going to take you through that journey. And MES, Manufacturing Execution System, people always say MES system. That's kind of like double speak, right? Gotta throw that in there. But when we implemented that, we thought we implemented stuff. We gave some tools and all that. It's kind of like a lot what you guys have heard today. You know, we talk about AI and digitalization, and we throw all these buzzwords out, and people get really, really super dizzy. And so we threw that out. But it didn't really go anywhere. It wasn't going anywhere. So what we call adoption stalled, right? So we had other entities in our region that we implemented stuff to. We said, hey, things are working well everywhere else. Working good in Mexico. No problems in Brazil. Korea's doing great. What's wrong with you Americans? You guys can't figure it out. But then you didn't really take into consideration the cultural impact of other regions and really how they function. Because in some environments, people aren't accustomed to being asked questions, asked their opinion. Or they're not forthright giving them, because that's a kind of an indication of maybe ignorance or not understanding. So you don't get a lot of that learning. And we didn't really tap into that. So you don't really get any sustained change from that. So the tagline here is digitalization doesn't fail because you don't have a system in place. Again, it fails because there's no connection. I'm just doing my job. It's just a tool. It's not a thing. It doesn't matter to me. I don't really care because I'm getting paid. I'm still putting in my time. You know, as Billy mentioned a moment ago, there's some people who say, I just put my time in, just pay me for what I do. You know, that's my perspective for that, right? You know, it wasn't really, I don't really care, it doesn't matter to me. That's why I said the whip them, you cannot bring somebody to whip them. They gotta bring it to you. You gotta find out why so one of the things I do, I like to do like little town halls with groups. I did this with this group too. We get a big circle, there's no titles, there's no none of this stuff. Everybody can say what they want. They can yell and scream at me if they want, you know, if they want to. Nobody's done that yet, but they could. And they can use the 2-foot rule. Anybody know what that is? Cool, I teach y'all something today. So, 2-foot rule is really simple. If you're in a meeting, see, he's exercising right now. If you're in a meeting, and if you're not contributing to that meeting, or if you're not getting anything out of it, you can use your 2 feet and leave. Pretty simple. So that gives everyone a safe space, gives everyone an out. So you're not forced to do this. It's for your advantage if you do it, but you're not forced to do that. You know, so you can exercise the 2 feet rule, nobody does. So I did this town hall, business circle, and I asked people, why do you work? Why do you come here? And the first wave, you get the real general answer, I love the company. MBS is awesome. And I'm laughing, I'm like, okay, what else you got? Oh, my supervisor's terrific. Yeah. And somebody says, oh, I love my coworkers. Coming from coworkers. I said, all that stuff is pretty cool, but that's not the real reason you come to work. What do you really come to work for? So then I ask different questions, right? What do you do when you're not here? What moves your emotions when you're not here? What makes you laugh, cry, smile, or even get angry? I ask those questions. And by the 4th round, people start really being honest with that. And one thing I'll give you a good icebreaker to help people do that, because people like to get on the phones, you know, and do all the surfing. So I ask people to pull out your phone and pull up a picture of you doing something that's not at work. That's easy because they don't have pictures of them at work. Like, give me my desk. You don't have those things. And so when they do that, then we have a discussion about, tell me about that hike you were on. What were you doing that for? Tell me about this dinner you had with your family. Tell me about that. So now I'm starting to make a true connection between the job they're doing, the income they're making, and their why. Not the what's in it for them, but why is it in it for them. There's a big difference in those two. Okay. So when you put things out there, we did this too. In this case with our ABS system. We have what I call the illusion. Everybody become David Copperfield, illusionists. We got a system out there, you got data, getting all this stuff, so wow, we got this stuff. But people are just still doing things the same way. They're not really changing it. You know, still got their spreadsheets, you still got the little notes on the side, still got all those things. And you can implement all day long. But there's differences. Implementation is not transformation. Transformation is what we're trying to go for. We want people to do stuff different, think of things different, act differently, and get uncommonly different results. That's what we're after. That's what transforming is. But implement stuff, throw something out there, that doesn't do anything. You know, let's just keep that in mind. Now, when people resist, that just means they're not connected. That means we, leaders, CIOs, anyone, we haven't connected that why. And I keep rubbing my belly button, not because I'm hungry, even though it's almost lunch. But I want you to have a visual that it's the gut feeling. It's the gut-wrenching thing that's when you recognize their why. That's what you really got hit on. Because the resistance doesn't fight you. They don't have to go out there and I'm just not gonna do it. Because people they gotta eat, right? So they're gonna come back to that eat stuff. I just can't get away from it. Free lunch, I'm sorry. But it will slow you down. They slow walking. They're not gonna rush into stuff. They're gonna watch the clock. Or they're gonna watch you. Because a lot of times we quote unquote implement stuff and it comes with the leader. It comes with the change person. It's like, look, this is the third, sorry Dana, this is the third VP of EHS we've had in 10 years. She's only gonna be around for another year and a half, so I'll just ride this out. There's no need me changing anything, I'm good, right? So it'll just slow you down. It won't change that stuff. And so we saw that. We saw people, we had like, I don't know, 1,000 products we're trying to run through this platform with MES. And again, I'm not running the project, but I'm overseeing what happens. And when I check, and say, okay, how are we doing? We've been doing this for like 4 months now. How many products have we gone through this portal? We had two. Two products. Two products. And why did we have two products? Because they started with the most difficult things they could do, and they found some roadblocks. And so we can't do it because the system don't match up. So we give up. So that's what happens when you don't have connection, you have resistance. They don't find a way. And what I tell people is you gotta be like water, right? You see water at the top of the mountain, it doesn't stay at the top of the mountain. It works its way down. Some way. If it evaporates, it becomes rain. If it finds a path, it becomes a stream. Same concept, same stuff. And that's what we experience. So, the other thing, piece, and I heard this on the stage during the panel precluded me, is you have to make the change you're doing. It's not an option. It's not an option. I used to say, burn the boats, but I don't like saying that anymore. It's like colonization. I'm not down with that. But what I will say, instead of that, when I told you, add back to this roundtable meeting again, I said, look, this is not going away, but let me tell you why it's not going away. So I heard at least twice during the sessions here, people talked about how we throw things out, we throw programs out, we put implementations out there. We don't really know why we're doing them. We're doing them because we came to a conference and we met a vendor that had a nice product, or some peer that we know is implementing something, so we say, oh, that's cool, let's do this stuff. Or we're just making spaghetti, and we just keep throwing spaghetti on the wall, see what sticks, right? So we don't really know, it's not really compelling, it's not really like supported, so it has to not be an option. No, you gotta give yourself two options. I might want to write this down, this is pretty compelling stuff. The two options you have is either make it or make it. And if that doesn't work, you got two other options around people. You either change the people or change the people. I'll put a pin in that, I'll keep that one. But again, it's not a system, it's got to be your infrastructure. This is what we do. And we talked about safety a moment ago. We talked about safety, actually twice today, I had a session on safety. And people, I heard mention about that being a priority. Safety can't be a priority. Every time I say that, people give me funny looks. It cannot be a priority, because if it's a priority, when something else is hot, then that gets put to the side. It has to be a precondition. So when you're doing digitalization, it has to become a precondition to where you're going as an organization. That's leadership, right? Lack of leadership says, we might do this, we might not. We're gonna see how y'all like it. We're gonna see what's in it for you. If you don't find a thing, we'll do something else. You can't really do that. You gotta be like, this is what we're doing. This is where we're going. We're implementing Kaizens. We're gonna do little baby steps. But this is our culture. This is what we're about. We're gonna build this into our DNA. So it has to be that way. It's a must. Not a should, not a could, but a must. It's really important. That's what we did. We said this is a must that you have to do. Now, the real problem wasn't training. People were getting trained. That wasn't it. Wasn't capability. They didn't believe it. They didn't have connection. But what I realized, we had the wrong people in the wrong seats. And this is what we did. I had an available engineer. I said, you're a pretty smart guy. I'm gonna let you run this project. You can get it over the finish line. But he didn't care, because he didn't do the job. He was related, but he didn't do the work. He didn't have he didn't have to make the product. So he didn't really care, so he had zero connection. So we weren't very, very, very effective at all. So it wasn't about being capable, there was just no connection. So the leaders didn't have connection, so the workers didn't connect to it. They didn't care. So I have looked at called stratical alignment. I won't put a lot of time on this because then it becomes educational. I don't want to be educational when I'm talking this. But basically, to get uncommon results, the way I see this, 3 elements have to happen. It can't be at 0. You got to be dissatisfied with the status quo. You got to want to change it, right? You got to have the ability, as I mentioned before, to do something about it. If you don't think you can do anything about it, 0, you don't get changed. But you got to have a vision that goes back to it's not an option. Where do we want to go? What do we want to be when we grow up? What do we want to do when we succeed here, right? What does success look like? So I always bring that to vision. And so I give scenario. I said, man, imagine a world to where we have a historical data trail on everything we do because we use MES. We don't have to go digging in some files and find out when the last time we made something. We can just push a few buttons. You know, we found some solutions today. Some of the vendors talking about some of those things, the tools that they have. So I would encourage you to talk to them, learn about what they're doing, and connect that. But when you have those three, not just at zero, you're gonna be above that little A there, it means average. And then you can get uncommon results. But if you have those things zero, you don't do anything. Because you're fine. Because I always say, the enemy of great is good enough, right? So as long as it's good enough, you're not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna be dissatisfied. You're not gonna get any change. You're not gonna get things transformed. You'll think you have implementation, but you won't get things transformed. And that's kind of where we work. So when you have that alignment, you'll get something moving. So then what worked? So what we did, I mentioned I didn't have connection as an engineer. It wasn't connected. I had a planner that had to put out all the work for everybody. She'd never run a project before. She has a high school education. She'd never been formally trained on project management. I said, we can close that gap. We can give you the steps. You saw yesterday a member from the Squint team gave an example how they had a documented AI telling them step by step how to do a PowerPoint presentation. So we gave step by step. This is how you do a project. So we took the scheduler who'd been scheduling the project. She had all the pain points. She wanted to run things through. Work with her. She put together a project plan. She said, okay, I can do this. Because she had the pain points. She had the connection. Keyword, connection. She had connection. So she started driving. She started having people be accountable. So she looked at, she was the champion. And she looked at another person, one of her people in the process to stage the process, stage the batches for us to produce a batch processing organization. Got him involved, got Octavius involved. He said, hey, I got pain points too. Connected people, not unconnected people. This is the key. So this whole conference, connected worker exchange, is something behind that. Ties to connect the dots. So when people believe it, when they experience it, that's when they can start connecting to it. You gotta quick wins. So what we decided to do, not start with the hardest stuff, let's start with the easy stuff. Let's get some wins in our pocket. Some quick wins in our pocket. So once we got some quick wins in our pocket, then you get momentum, right? Then you get some momentum. Those results didn't matter. Nobody cares. After you throw up a chart, whether it's up or down, nobody can read the detail. Anyway, especially when you put it on a presentation, they don't read that stuff. That's not the intangible. The intangible, culture shift. That's connection. And I'll give you something else y'all can write down. I love giving people stuff to write down. You write it or not. People always say culture shift, big organization, it's like changing a battleship. It takes you miles to turn that sucker around. Maybe. But what I look at, culture change, everybody has their own little canoe. We got 1,000 canoes. It don't take me much to get a canoe changing. So I work on those champions, I work on those connected folks, I get those canoes moving, and then what you have is a wake. And so even those that don't want to move, don't want to change, they get it caught in a wake. So culture change, for me, goes one canoe at a time, and that's where you get that ownership. Ownership, as you see here, follows adoption. Adoption follows connection. Getting the right people, real connected, getting champions who matter, find out their why. Oh, there I go, touching my stomach again. That one was a hunger touch, I'm sorry. That wasn't I get mixed up sometimes. Y'all can't hear the grumbling up here, but trust me, it's grumbling. Again, I talk about transformation, and you heard this earlier from the panel. It happens through people. Like I said, you get the technology, throw it out there. That helps people do their why better. You always talk about that why. Not like, you're going to have a better job, Frank. Frank doesn't give a dance behind about a better job. Frank likes to go fishing. Frank wants to make sure he can go fishing with his grandson. That's what's important to Frank. So you have to bring it back to that, you gotta know this stuff. And so people will decide when they feel connected. Leaders, you're the catalyst. If you got your hands in there and you're doing it, and you're making it, and you're making the change, then you're not leading. And it won't stick. And you're taking away the ownership. People won't have that. And it won't become sustainable. It'll just be until you're touching it. When you stop touching it, or when you leave, it goes away with you. Now, who wants to do stuff that just goes away when you go? We should all want to aspire to more than that. I know I do. To more than that. You want to make an impact. So when people take ownership, transformation becomes sustainable. And that's what we saw in our case. Big time. So Tyann took over from a project management standpoint, even though she didn't have the inherent skill set, she learned them. And then when we found the champions, we started driving it. But the funny thing is, and everybody should understand this when we're going through this journey, it's not a straight path. Sometimes you're going to take 2-3 steps forward, give a half step back, and say, oh, I want to make progress. Sometimes you take a half a step forward and 2 steps back. But those little roadblocks are just that, little roadblocks. That's not a stopping point. But when you make that connection and you have that ownership and you understand people's why, then you have that resilience. And that's what we experience in this journey. The journey's not over, but wow, we have so much momentum. Just before I got here, as I mentioned, we had run 2 products through this process in 6 months. Last week, we ran 22 products through in 4 days. Because put the right people and right ownership, and they took it and ran with it. So this is how you get resilience to ownership, and that's the human side of connected worker transformation. So thank you. I'll take any questions you have.
Hi there, Natalie Thompson from BP. Lots of change going on everywhere for sure. You're a busy guy, hungry and busy. But how do you, in your day-to-day, work on getting your team to be as passionate as you are? Because you can't go and touch every one of those people and connect. So how do you do that with your team? Any tricks?
Well, I wouldn't call it a trick, but I call it authenticity, right? So I'll tell you this. Thanks for asking the question, by the way, Natalie. It gets me to share a little bit. So you cannot fake compassion for people. Yeah, people heard this thing. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. We're all that same way. So I really do care about people, my team. And I let them know that. Because I got some whys too. And they help me with my why. I love traveling. I like doing that kind of stuff. That's fun for me. I'm a marathon runner. Normally that precludes me in what I do. I run like over 50 of them. Pretty cool. But more so than that, I've run like 80,000 miles in my lifetime. And still counting. So I spend a whole lot of time like this, So as often as I can, I convey that I really care about my team and what they mean to me, and I care about their lives as well. So if you don't have that compassion, try to get some. Go read a book. There's a whole bunch of books about compassion or whatever. Find a compassionate friend and do that stuff. Or think about your own why and then understand everybody's. I got a few more minutes, so I'll explain something to y'all. I get to use my phone. I got a captive audience. I got a platform, so I'm taking advantage of it. So when I was younger, much younger. So my best friends in high school, believe it or not, I had 2 best friends in high school, was a cafeteria lady and a custodian. Yeah, cafeteria lady and custodian. Spent a lot of time in the cafeteria, talking to the cafeteria lady. I had to make friends with her because she was serving my food. I remember that. Serving my food. So I said, I want to know you. You are a nice person. Keep that hair down. That was funny. I just made it. And the janitorial person, they keep everything nice and bright, and everybody just walk by them all the time. You know, they're pushing the trash, the receptacle, and everybody just walk by them. I said, I'm not gonna be that person ever. I'm gonna engage them, I'm gonna talk to them, I'm gonna learn about this person. You know, I learned Mr. Thurman, he's pushing that stuff. He also had a pig farm. He's a farmer on his spare time, and he's doing this, but that's his real passion. So I learned a long time ago to tap into people's life. But the one thing I also learned, that Mr. Thurman, he had a whole ring of keys. So when somebody got locked out of the room, they said, Mr. Thurman, we need you to come to teacher so-and-so to unlock the room. Man, he'd come with a pep in his step, he'd dingle on those keys, he'd open it up. And I started realizing, man, that did something for Mr. Thurman. He was no longer invisible. When he got called, he got to bring out his keys, he was on top of the world. So I used that philosophy later as an adult. I said, you know what? Everybody has something that they use their keys for. Everybody has some keys. Everybody has some keys. And so I always say, okay, and I'll tell people that story that I just told y'all, and I'll say, hey, what are your keys? What's that thing that makes you get your pep in your step? That makes you go, what I do? That's what I bring. That's how I bring the passion to my team. And that's when I leave an organization, I leave an environment, it sticks. Because they're thinking about, I need to do this for me. I'm not doing it for them or him or something else or the company. I'm doing this for me, for my wife. I won't answer every question that long, so if there's any other questions, I'd be more than happy. I got like less than 2 minutes left, but I'd be more than happy. Great, that means I did a good job. So definitely look me up on LinkedIn. I like having new friends and meeting people, so enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
All right, folks. Well, you've all earned yourself a networking lunch. I think it's the same drill. Is that right, Doug? Down the stairs? Yep. The crew will be correct.